Time to round up another big story from the week. A group of minority former faculty members at the University of Missouri says racial problems must be addressed. The MU former faculty of color released a statement late Friday. It supports the protesting students, saying there is a racist environment on the campus in Columbia. The statement, signed by 9 former employees, says the university's inability to retain minority faculty contributes to the problem. We're focusing on the tension and protests at the University of Missouri this half hour, and we want to hear from you on our Fox 26 Facebook page. You can also weigh in on Twitter. Be sure to use the hashtag Fox26forlife. Joining us live in our newsroom is our panel led by our senior legal analyst, Chris Tritico, our news analyst, Mustafa Tamiz, and public policy analyst, Jackie Bally. Good morning again.
Good morning.
So these student protesters have now voiced support for the interim president. Can he change this culture on campus?
Well, the key word being interim, and that makes it a very difficult prospect for someone who's in an interim position to make really big policy changes at any organization like Missouri. Let's do a little history lesson. There's been a rich history of racial issues going on in Missouri at this university for a very, very long time. They wouldn't allow African-American students to enroll in their law school, and they got sued over it. It took the United States Supreme Court to say, oh, yes, you will. And so this has been going on for 40, 50, 60 years or longer at this university. I think a university is a great place to have rich discussions about very important topics like racism. We should be having those topics, but what we can't have, Jackie Bally, is the administration ignoring racism. It's one thing to have rich discussions, it's another thing to tacitly allow racism at your university.
I think it's very important for students to participate in peaceful, helpful discussions and protests. I think that's part of the political science process. However, and I think it's important for the faculty and administration to listen to these students. However, based on some of the stories we're hearing that some of these stories may be fabricated. For instance, the president of the student body is a gay black man. And he said that someone off campus, it was not even a student, hurled racial slurs at him. Now, what can the administrators actually do about that? It was not on campus, it was not a student. So, and then he said that there were members of the KKK on campus, and then he went back on social media and said, well, maybe he fabricated some or most of that story. So we have to really find out exactly what is going on. A lot of the incidents that you talked about on the campus happened many, many years ago. But if the students are using this as a healthy process to talk about having healthy relationships, that's one thing. But if you start fabricating stories to actually, and this gentleman has admitted he wants to have a political future. So if you start fabricating stories to get attention, to get the media attention like he now clearly has, then I think that's another problem.
Fabricating stories has been a part of the political process for years. Hey. We don't have time for that.
He's got a bright future. Look, you know, first Ferguson and now at Missouri State College. Something's going on in Missouri. There needs to be a deeper conversation about that. And I don't know the details about this case because it seems like there's something that we're missing. But one thing we've learned that the football team has the most amount of power than anybody else. It seems like when the football team got involved, that's when the president actually.
Well, that's where the money is.
That's where. So
they finally woke up.
You know, I think that there's a learning here that in 2 parts. One, don't mess with the football team, and then 2, these conversations are important. They're important in order for us to move forward as a community. And in Missouri, at different levels of government, in different levels of institutions, it seems to not be happening.
The president of the university gave short attention to what the students were claiming, and it cost him and the chancellor their jobs. Was that really the right way to go?
To fire the president?
For the president to get fired.
Especially since we're hearing that a lot of the instances were maybe fabricated or some of them were not true. I don't think they should have fired the president. I think they should have done an extensive research, maybe hire somebody from the outside to come in and actually look at the race relations on the campus to find out exactly what's going on.
Now, let me go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media.
Okay, let's take a look at Twitter and see some of the tweets that are out there right now. This person says, it's great to see not just black students, but white, Latino, and Asian students taking a stand in solidarity against racism. And then this person, Jennifer, says, these protests prove what happens in an everyone gets a trophy generation. Interesting thought there. And then Ben says, interesting that most of the complaints from the MIZZU protesters have either been untrue or unsubstantiated, going along with what Jackie was saying.
Well, and Jackie makes a valid point that these things need to be investigated and looked at to make sure that these complaints are true and valid. It doesn't change the argument that the students are making that racism exists. And that, I think, is where further discussion needs to be had. And it's a perfect place to have that discussion on a college campus.